Now, the death toll from Monday's earthquakes in Turkey and Syria has risen past 11,000. The quake is now the deadliest in the past decade. The death toll is, however, expected to rise exponentially as freezing winter temperatures hamper the search. Rescue workers are racing against the clock to bring survivors out alive. We can now bring in Bertrand Bainvel, Deputy Regional Director, Programme and Partnerships at UNICEF Middle East and North Africa. Thank you very much for speaking to us here on France 24. What are you hearing from your teams on the ground?
Well, we hear that there is, of course, a huge amount of devastation and disruptions in the lives of people, in addition to the physical destruction, which is across the whole north part of Syria, and including in the pocket of Idlib in the northwest, but also in Aleppo, Tartus, and other areas. We feel also a lot of distress. We hear about distress from families and children. Families and children had to leave their destroyed houses in the middle of the night under freezing temperature. Many of them are living on the streets, under the bridges, and for a few managed to get to some shelters. But this earthquake is happening at the worst time for children and the families. It's really cold and freezing out there. It is happening also as part of a series of blows that children and their families have faced in Syria. They've been living under 12 years of conflict. Last year, we saw a serious deterioration of the economic conditions. Last September, there was a cholera outbreak. So all of these makes it extremely difficult for children and their families.
And what are some of the most pressing needs?
Well, the most pressing needs relate very much to the very, very basic ones. I mean, having access to safe water. I mentioned earlier the cholera outbreak is absolutely crucial for families to have access to safe water, to avoid also getting some waterborne disease like cholera, and knowing that the water supply systems are were very fragile and have been seriously hit also by the earthquake. So water is one. Health, nutrition. We also make sure that children are not separated from their families or don't end up being on their own. So the whole aspect of tracing and reunifying children with their families is important. And as I said, the psychosocial support is absolutely key. As part of that, maintaining also a sense of routine and education for the children is important, including for those who are now living in shelters.
And besides keeping children with their families, how do you unite children with their families, especially if you're taking out children alive and their parents are no longer there? Then what happens?
Well, this is what we have to identify, case by case and family by family, to see what is the situation and whether or not children would have lost their parents, have also, in that case, some surviving extended families, which should be the first line of support and the best one for a child. So making sure that they are connected to the extended families when such situation happens is absolutely key, and providing them with the psychological support also in the meantime.
I spoke to a doctor earlier, Bertrand. He told me that the next 24 hours are crucial in the hopes of bringing out survivors alive. Does that hold for children too, or is it on a different timeline for children?
No, it's exactly the same for children. I mean, they've been living now for several nights under the rubble. I mean, some who are trapped under the rubble and under, as I said, freezing temperatures. So every hour now, which is passing, is actually increasing the likelihood of death including for children. So it's very important, the search and rescue operations going on now, and knowing how difficult they are under the current circumstances are absolutely crucial to save lives.
Indeed, and I wanted to ask you if UNICEF has a team on the ground over in Syria.
Yes, we do. We've been, providing assistance to children and in Syria from our Gaziantep office in Turkey to reach out to the displaced children and families in the northwest of Syria through a cross-border operation. And in Syria itself, through our office in Damascus and sub-offices in areas like Aleppo or Tartus or Hama, we are actually already on the ground delivering some key assistance like water supply or mobilizing some health and nutrition mobile teams in addition to further assessing the needs. We've been able to redirect some supply or some assistance that's been going on prior to the earthquake, as we've been operating in this very difficult operating environment for the last 12 years. It's of course getting even more difficult, but at least we can rely on teams on the ground. We can rely on preposition supplies that can be redirected towards the communities who have been the most affected.
As you were speaking, we just got information from Syrian state media saying that nearly 300,000 people have been forced to leave their homes in Syria due to the earthquake. So, of course, one of the most pressing needs is also going to be shelter.
Yeah, so shelters are already, some have been already open, including in the schools, which have not been damaged. In Syria, they have also closed the schools for a certain period of time. So this could be used as a shelter, but of course is of a temporary nature. And we'll have to see what would be then the next approach to housing and more permanent type of housing for the families. Of course, it will mean a long haul reconstruction effort, including to rehabilitate and rebuild some infrastructures which either have been totally destroyed or are on the verge of collapsing and which are unsafe now for children to and families to live in or to use in the case of schools or health centers, for instance.
Bertrand, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us on the program, and good luck to your teams on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just a reminder, the death toll from Monday's earthquakes in Turkey and Syria has risen past 11,000 today. The quake is now the deadliest in the past decade. The death toll is, however, expected to rise exponentially as freezing winter temperatures hamper the search. Rescue workers are racing against the clock to bring survivors out alive. Medical experts we have spoken to on the program say the next 24 hours will be crucial. That's it from me. Thank you very much for watching.